I survived Roe versus Wade, literally. But Roe versus Wade didn't survive all of us. Amen? Amen. I want to thank President Minnis and all of the staff from Benedictine for, over the decades, leading this charge. Maybe some of you were thinking the same things that I was when I saw the young men who I got to work with on Value Them Both. Thank you again for all that you all did. Every time we are out there educating people and showing the humanity of every unborn child, that is a win, guys. That is a win, isn't it? But I kept thinking as we saw them this morning and we saw the generations, and listen, I love the 80s, I love the 90s. Don't tell me that the 80s were 40 years ago. That's when I start to sweat a little bit. We can talk about that later. But I was watching all of the generations come to the stage, and I kept thinking, this is what the Lord is trying to show the world, that we are all part of the tapestry of a culture of life. And it was happening before Roe versus Wade. It happened during Roe versus Wade. And we grew an army of individuals across the United States and around the world, thanks to colleges and universities like Benedictine, thanks to organizations like Students for Life and so many others. And we continue to raise the voices of all of us who will continue to fight for the day when every single person is seen as more than a choice. Amen? Amen. I was more than someone's choice to abort. It was not my biological mother's right to try to end my life. And I know many people know bits and pieces of my story. I'm going to share a little bit about it today so some of you who don't know me can know a little bit more about what God has done. I'll age myself very quickly. I just turned 45, hence why I love the 80s and the 90s, not a big surprise. But 45 years ago, my biological mother was forced as a college student. One of the reasons why college outreach is so important to me. She was a 19-year-old college student when she was forced to undergo a saline infusion abortion. That abortion was incredibly horrific for her. And obviously it was horrific for me. Usually that procedure lasted about 3 days, but we know through my medical records, it didn't last for just 3. Over a 5-day period, I soaked in a toxic salt solution meant to poison and scald me to death, while doctors tried time and time again to induce her labor. On the 5th day of that abortion procedure, they were successful, and I was meant to be delivered that day as a quote-unquote successful abortion, otherwise known as a deceased child. But God spared my life. Can we give the Lord a hand this morning for sparing my life? I just so happened to be born on the day where we recognize the beheading of St. John the Baptist. Minor detail for this convert to the church. Trust me, that's a story in and of itself. But I'm standing here today in joy with what has been done with the overturning of Roe versus Wade. And I can tell you, the day that Roe was overturned, I was on the phone with staff from Value Them Both talking about what we were going to say, no matter what happened. And I got 2 really amazing texts that day when I was at the National Right to Life Convention. One was from my 14-year-old daughter, who I'm going to embarrass. Raise your hand, Liv. That's a future Benedictine graduate, I'm just saying. Be sure to find her later and talk to her about that. President Minnis, you're up for that today. You're on it. One of the first texts I got was from her. She was downstairs at a conference with other teens learning about the pro-life movement that she already knows so well. But she approached me through text and said, "Mom, where are you? I need to hug you." When we have lost 64 million lives to abortion over nearly 50 years, we didn't just lose 64 million lives. We lost countless generations like my own children. And there is so much grief to be found in that for me. But there's so much hope to be found in the fact that we have sowed the seeds to get where we are today. And we can continue to build a culture of life so that this ends now. But the other important text I received was from none other than my biological mother. I'm an adoptee. I didn't get to know my birth mother until, about 10 years ago. My birth mother's story is very traumatic, as you can imagine, but the most traumatic part is that she spent over 30 years of her life believing that I had died in that abortion. My survival was kept a secret. There is a reason why they called children like me the dreaded complication of abortion. And I was so dreaded that not only did they try to end my life, but they kept my life a secret from my birth mother. My birth mother lives not terribly far from me in the Kansas City metro because God has been so faithful. And she is now a huge part of my life. But think about this for a second. One of the first people to text me on the day that Roe fell was none other than a woman who was forced to abort. She was so thrilled that Roe was overturned alongside all of us. And if she was here today, I know my birth mother, Ruth, would tell you thank you. Thank you for your witness. Thank you for attending marches. Thank you for being out on the sidewalk. Thank you for serving women who deserve better than abortion. And on behalf of my community of survivors that I now serve, and we've reached over 600 survivors, we know that there are likely tens of thousands of survivors, and I'm on a mission to find them. If you hear from one, send them my way. We also serve their mothers who experience shame and guilt and suffering even after a failed abortion, so send those mothers my way as well. But on behalf of 64 million children who never have the opportunity to thank you, who I was meant to be, I just want to give you this word of thanks today for fighting for us, for seeing our humanity, and for working alongside all of us to build a culture of life for generations to come. Thank you so much for being here today, and God bless.